Peterson, who's going to be moderated the rise of the influencer founder. What's next?
Hello, hello. Thank you for hanging in there for the afternoon sessions. As was mentioned, my name's Christine Park Peterson, and I'm a banker at JP Morgan Chase in the middle market. And I'm the industry captain for beauty. So it's a great pleasure to be here, to have a chance to meet so many of you, so many of the brands that I've been following and covering. And certainly it's an honor to be up here with friends, but also amazing entrepreneurs. So to my left is Natasha Moor of Natasha Moor Cosmetics.
Hi. Hello.
She started her career as a celebrity makeup artist, and after 10 years of being heralded by the most discerning brides across all of Asia and Southeast Asia, she was inspired to launch her own brand. And in addition to that, she uses her platform to do good in the world by helping women who've been affected by human trafficking. So we'll hear more about that later. And then to her left is Phan, who probably needs no introduction, but she is the OG YouTube creator and also a multi-hyphenate businesswoman with her second multi-million-dollar company, M Cosmetics. But we're excited to have you here. But Michelle, let's kick this off. We had a really great dinner last night, and and we tossed all the questions we were going to ask out the window after. It was great. But the title of our panel is The Rise of the Influencer Founder. But it's probably, after our conversation, more aptly should have been titled The Creator Founder. Can you talk through and unpack those terms and what they mean to you?
How many influencers are in this room? Raise your hands. Just curious. Don't be shy. Okay, I see Soy there. She's a really massive TikTok creator right there. Soy, can you tell me, because you've also been influencing for so long, and I've been doing that too, the term influencer, did any of us vote that that would be our label? Well, the interesting thing is a lot of creators I meet, they're also confused. It's like, wait, we were called bloggers and vloggers, and all of a sudden we're labeled influencers. And most of the creators I meet, they have the same opinion. They believe the term has a negative connotation. It is kind of like this box that they're put in. And oftentimes when you're put in a box, you feel like you can only be that. And so a message I wanted to give to all of you, especially founders who are probably on the fence of, should I be an influencer too and go online and show myself, is don't think about the term or what the idea of an influencer is. Just be a great storyteller. Be someone that's authentic, that people would want to connect with. And I believe that has more longevity than being a label, because the term influencer in 20 years, is that going to be even relevant? I don't think so, but a storyteller is something that is timeless. And I was mentioning to Christine, I think influencer, the word, I think we're gonna see an evolution of that. And I want us to embrace the idea of being more timeless, which is storytelling.
And I love that as an inspiration and a jumping off point, because it is from your experiences as storytellers, telling the story of your backgrounds and what you've seen in your travels, that inspired your brands. But Natasha, maybe you could kick us off and tell us what your aha moment was to launch your brand.
Definitely. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for staying back and listening to our talk. I started my career as a makeup artist, like so many founders here today. I've been able to mingle and socialize with some of you, and what's been so wonderful is being able to connect with you guys just on the same message that I have. As a makeup artist, I was traveling internationally every 3 days. I was in a different country working with brides. And who's heard of the term bridezilla? I've had to deal with a lot of them, but they were never rude to me, but I would notice that with their insecurities and with having no makeup on, they would suddenly look in the mirror and be like, Natasha, my dark circles, I don't feel good, I feel insecure. And being someone who grew up extremely insecure, I connected with them. And as soon as I did their makeup, it was a transformative aura. Their energy changed. Not just their confidence levels, but I realized they became nicer people. They were nicer to people around them. They were nicer to their husbands. And so I realized the impact that makeup truly had. And that's what really drove me to want to do this for people who couldn't afford it. So I was traveling everywhere and going through my own personal mental health journey and thought I wanted to do something to make myself feel good. Honestly, that's how it started. And I went to visit women's shelters. I went to drug and rehab centers. I went to homeless shelters. And all I did was do their makeup. That was it. And it was a complete different impact that I could see in their face. Not just on the outside, but on the inside, they suddenly felt so good about themselves. I had these kids saying, oh my gosh, where can I buy this lipstick? And that was truly my aha moment. And that's what made me want to start a brand that spoke to people, that empowered people. And all the shades are basically affirmations. So we have game changer, hustler, drive, CEO, ambition, just to spark that positivity and confidence.
I love that. And Michelle, what about you? This is your second company that you've launched, but what was the inspiration?
The inspiration, the aha moment to create M was I wanted to create a product that people can touch and feel, especially my community, because they've been watching me as a digital character for so long, and I wanted something that they can have, they can touch, and they can hold, and they know that I created it. It was something I created. It was very intentional. And also, I had a point of view. Like, I've never been into, I would say, like, my makeup routine is very simple. Like, I'm very lazy. So I want my makeup to do the most of the work, and it blends itself. And that was the inspiration behind M, was we're very texture driven. When you touch our product, when you apply it, it just does a lot of the work for you. And it looks like it was done by a pro, but, you know, I'm lazy. So So my philosophy is a reflection of my brand, and also a lot of my community, they've been wanting me to create it for so long, so it just made sense. It wasn't like a moment where it was like, aha, it was just an accumulation of like all these different signs from the universe pointing me to go on this path. And so here I am.
And her products are beautiful, just we'll say.
Likewise.
Indeed. Well, I don't know that it's lazy so much as efficient, right? I mean, we're all busy, so I love that your routines are direct and straightforward. But maybe, Michelle, we'll start with you for the next question. Is having a large following and being known is certainly an advantage when you're launching a brand. But talk to us a little bit about the disadvantages or the downside that people might not recognize.
Oh gosh, we could do a whole podcast episode on this. I would say the biggest downside is you're constantly under a magnifying glass, like you're constantly being scrutinized. I always tell people the rise of your fame, it's always the best part, because you're kind of like a underground band that everyone's rooting for. But the moment you're like mainstream or you hit 1 million subscribers or whatever it is, things change. Like you start attracting people who don't know your story, and they just judge you. And if you are someone who you don't truly know who you are, and I was that person. I was 19 and I felt very insecure, and I had a lot of just comments that were demoralizing to me. And it was hard. It was hard for me to deal with that. And so I would say to any founder who wants to become a public figure and you hit fame, there's upsides to that, but the biggest downside is you just have to be careful with just what you say, what you post online. Like, you can't be as authentic as you really could be, which is ironic because everyone's always saying, oh, just be authentic. But it's like, you can't. You have to dial it down just a little bit because you have to protect your brand. So I think it's really important as a founder and also as someone who is a public figure, I have to kind of dance between this weird dichotomy of being authentic, but also being mindful of what I'm saying, because anything can be taken out of context. And we live in that world where, and I've heard horror stories, I'm not going to say who, but there's in the beauty industry, especially with all this online content, there's people who pay these drama channels some money to like talk shit about this brand, talk shit about this person. I've never been involved in that, obviously. I've always been really low key, but it's scary, you know, just thinking that. So this is why I'm a big believer in just focus on your lane, try to really focus on your community. Don't listen to the outside. I don't like using the word hate, but people who misunderstand you, you have to know how to build this shield to protect your mental health, your mental environment, if that makes sense, or else it starts eating away at you. And this was something I wish I told my younger self before I started off online.
Thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. Natasha, what about you? What have been the downsides or the disadvantages of being more public?
So for me, it was a bit different because in my culture, I'm Indian, born and brought up in Hong Kong. And being Indian, it was very difficult starting a brand at 25 years old, and I was married. And a lot of people would criticize me in our culture and say, this woman is traveling every 3 days and she's getting a divorce. She's ashamed to our society because she's a woman. She shouldn't be doing this and leaving her husband at home. And for me, that really affected me mentally. And that's actually, you know, I guess the blessing is that I decided to find myself. And that's when I went to the women's shelters and work, you know, like that. So for me, the biggest challenge was having to deal with all this noise and eliminate that noise and start to trust myself and know that it's okay. I'm doing this because I'm here to empower women and make this a dream for me and make this a reality. So.
I love that. Thank you. As you can tell, we had a really soulful dinner last night, and just grateful for how open and transparent you both have been. Natasha, we'll start with you. In launching a business after being a celebrity makeup artist, talk to us a little bit about the skills that you had to develop and that you are developing still as you launch your company.
A lot. As an entrepreneur, it's a roller coaster journey. There's so many ups and so many downs. I would be lying to you if I say it just gets easier. It really doesn't. One of the things I really had to learn is grit. I had to trust myself so much more. I had to ignore the noise. It's really difficult to be constantly on your A game and also doing the behind the scenes work and also worrying about the financials. And, you know, the reality of running a business is so different to just being a makeup artist and making people feel really beautiful. And then, you know, that's it. That's the end of my day. Whereas running this business means I have people to pay, I have staff to take care of. There's so much that goes on. But what I will say for me is the biggest, most amazing thing that I learned was to be vulnerable. And as a founder, I stopped being so open. And as a person, I'm very loving and warm. And people would kind of misunderstand that as me being fake. And so I stopped doing that because of what people would say. So I started to, you know, be a bit cold and different. And then I realized that's not me. Why not just be myself and wear my heart on my sleeves and be vulnerable? So I think hopefully that answers that for me. Being vulnerable has been the best thing that the best advice I could give to another fellow entrepreneur.
I love that. And Michelle, you too, this is your second company, and you've developed a lot of skills both in front of the camera and behind it, but what skills have you needed to develop in this phase of your evolution?
I think a skill that every founder should have, and is something that I had to learn along the way too, is you need to be a problem solver. If you don't like problem solving, I always tell people don't be a founder, because literally there's going to be problems every single day, and you need to have like the grit and the courage and I don't know, like you have to have that appetite to want to solve problems. It's kind of hard to describe. So whether it's you or someone else on your team that can help facilitate that, I think it's going to be really important to have that skill set in your belt. And it was something that I had to develop along the way. And I believe part of problem solving is being able to detach your emotion from the situation. Like, oh my gosh, like, let's say someone quit, like 5 people quit, and then you have to figure out, what do I do? Like, instead of being upset about it. And you're allowed to allow the emotions to run through. Just don't hold on to those emotions, because those emotions can start controlling you, and then you don't want to like write or send a text message like, F you, I can't believe you quit on me, which, by the way, I've never done this. I've heard horror stories of people who did this. And I just saw this one brand founder, she was not able to control her emotions, like throwing stuff at her employees and stuff. It's insane. And I believe it's so important to know when to turn off your emotions and detach and just observe the problem and then solve the problem if you can. Another thing I had to learn too was asking for help. I have so much pride. And I always thought asking for help means like I'm weak or I don't know anything and it just makes me look small. And I realized that was my insecurity that was in front of me and I needed to overcome her. If I didn't overcome that, I wouldn't be able to be where I'm at now, where it's okay to ask for help. Like sometimes you'd be surprised if you don't ask for enough help. If you're one of those people where you don't ask for help, you'd be so surprised when you do ask for help. People are so excited to help you because I'm sure you're one of those people who would drop everything for them. So the power of just asking for help, the power of just wanting to solve problems, like these are the 2 things that I had to learn.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. I think that resonated with a lot of people. I saw a lot of
Yes.
heads nodding. Given the topic of this summit today, and both being diverse female founders, talk to us a little bit about how that shapes your growth strategy. Maybe we'll start with you, Michelle. Like, how is that informing the ways that you want to scale M Cosmetics?
Sure. I can give an example. So for example, we're a very small brand. Surprisingly, you would think like I would have a massive brand, but I'm like indie beauty brand. And I can't do these crazy orders. Like my minimum quantity orders are very small because I'm mostly DTC. So when I saw a lot of these other bigger brands were launching like 50 foundation shades, 40 foundation shades, like my team and I were like, we can't do that because that would just, we wouldn't have any more money left to pay anyone. But we're like, but we want to be inclusive. Like we should and we have to be. And also like my audience, they're so diverse. Like I don't want them to feel like they're not seen. So we decided, the PD team and I, we decided let's just not do full face foundation. We won't do full coverage. We'll do sheer to medium build and we will touch all the color. We will have a really nice range, like a nice shade range of just 6 shades, which is crazy because everyone's doing 40 shades. We're doing 6, but it's a good range. And so these are the things that as a minority business owner, I have to be mindful of because I know that people see me, they know, like they want to make sure like, hey, you're being inclusive, right? It's like, obviously, I mean, of course I am, but I also have to be mindful of my finances. I have to make a smart business decision. So it's really, for me, I think it's going to be important as a founder to focus more on niche things. Like don't follow what these bigger brands are doing. Like I think if you have a strong point of view and work with what you got. So sometimes limitations can be the greatest invitation for innovation. I believe in that. I believe some of the greatest things I've ever made was because I didn't have a lot of resources, but it forces you to kind of think outside the box. So don't be scared of limitations. Like I find that limitation can really help open up a part of your brain that you never even knew was there. And then that tap more into that magic, and you'd be surprised. It's going to have new problem-solving abilities.
Well, I'm smiling. Certainly as a banker, I love hearing a founder talk about being mindful of finances. So thank you, Michelle. What about you, Natasha, as you scale? Talk to us a little bit about it.
So first of all, that was the best way to answer that. That's exactly what I mean about wearing your heart on your sleeves and being authentic. Like you wouldn't expect that from such a huge, phenomenal person, you know, and that's so amazing. I also have only 6 shades, and I'm also
no way. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I get it. It's what we have to go through as founders. We have to deal with all the things that people don't really get to see. And you know, me again, if we're talking about being diverse, I'm from Hong Kong, speak Cantonese, I'm Indian, I speak Tagalog, like I'm from everywhere, and I've worked with so many different skin tones being a makeup artist that I wanted to cater to everyone. So I created these 6 shades that really blended in with so many different skin tones. And yeah, it's the same sort of thing. It's like mixing and matching and creating your shade. So for us, we're primarily in Hong Kong. So my brand is in Sephora in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, and the Philippines. We just launched in India, and we're launching in the Middle East. And that's how I'm trying to reach a whole wide network of people and hopefully launch more in the US. We're currently in Macy's here and launching in other places. So our shade range is also, like, we have like about 50 shades of lipsticks, and that's the most that I think we can do as founders, because it's a lot.
I feel like consumers know. Like, they know when a product was developed by someone who knows.
Yeah.
Like, they know the struggle. And I think you have to just understand what those struggles are and just target and develop something that is addressing these struggles. I think this is really where you stand out from all these bigger brands that are trying to be more mass, but we know mass is dead. Mass doesn't exist. Like, this is the internet. Everything is decentralized. Everything is niche. Like, Christine says it best. What do you say in your household to your sons? What do you tell them?
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
Let's put our blinders on and stay in our lane. Thank you. Well, I mean, you really do capture the reality of what it is to be a founder. And I think that's what's resonating. It certainly resonated with me last night. But let's talk a little bit about, I mean, the two of you are moving through the world as apparently very successful people with followings and companies that you've launched. But we talked a little bit about debunking the girl boss myth last night. And I wondered, I thought that might be helpful for today's audience, as everyone is, you know, reconciling the challenges of launching a brand and navigating the realities of life. So maybe we'll start with you on this one, Natasha. Do you want to
Sure,
debunk
I'm
the girl
just
boss
going to
myth?
be straight up. Being a girl boss doesn't mean you have to be bitchy. I think that's what everyone just thinks, like, oh, I'm a girl boss, so I'm going to be No, wearing your heart on your sleeves and being a really kind person and helping others along the way, supporting other brand founders, that's the way you're going to grow in life. And that's when you're truly a girl boss. To me, when someone is there to help and open, like Amy saying, you know, in one of the panels, Amy Liu from Tower 28, phenomenal products, by the way, she just said, how can we help? That is a true girl boss, you know? Michelle being so supportive of so many brands, and that is a true girl boss. So that is what I will leave you with. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you. Thanks, girl. I think the girl boss myth, the myth is beautiful. Like, you can have it all. You are on top of the world. You're a CEO. You have all these amazing people on your team that believe in you and support your vision. You have to look amazing too. If you're going to have kids, your kids look amazing. Everything is just amazing. Everything is like, your whole show is like a reality show. And guess what? That is not possible at all. And I know so many creators who create this amazing persona that they put in front of the world, and they're not like that in real life. And so imagine having a business and having that too. It's just not sustainable at all. And I think, Christine, you said it best, is you can have it all, but just not at the same time. I'm a huge believer in that, because I thought the image I was creating, the persona I created of like Michelle Phan, this entrepreneur who started off as a starving artist, and then she found YouTube, and then she did this whole makeup thing, and then I raised money and built this amazing company that was worth 800 million. Oh my gosh, I started off as a starving artist, by the way. Like, this story I had that I was telling became my prison. It became this box that I felt like I had to live in. And if I deviated out of this box, I was betraying the story that I was telling people. And I realized that I'm not that story. The story can change. You are the author to your story. You're allowed to delete things. You're allowed to change things and be present with these new changes. And so something I want to share with you, because I know so many other girls who were going down this girl boss path and they're hitting breaking point. They're like, just, you know, they're burning out, is that it's so hard. You have to be kind with yourself. You can't put so much expectation in yourself to just be successful and look good doing it and like live in this amazing house. And you have to ask yourself, is this what you really wanted? And if it wasn't, who told you you should have this? Who told you this is what you should want? And that was something I had to really deeply go through the past 5 years of just deep inner work of peeling away the layers and really knowing who I truly am and not the story that my family told me and society told me and the internet told me. So many layers were peeled away where I just became my true self, my vulnerable true self. And from there, I'm able to rebuild the story and the new narrative that I want for myself. So I think the girl boss narrative, it's amazing. It's a fun story that you can play in, that you can have fun in, but also be kind to yourself and just know that there's no perfect girl boss. Like, there's not someone that has it all at the same time. You can have it all, but it's going to be in different parts of your life, and that's okay too. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. I think we are at time. Do we have time to take a question? I'm not sure. Does anyone have a question? I think it's hard to follow up that answer, but thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. I think it's... All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
One quick piece of housekeeping. I have